That's right. We want you to take your phone out here at Columbine United Church. We are a social media church. We believe in social media and the power of social media. If you're watching us on Facebook and on Instagram, all three of us are on social media. We want you to follow us on Facebook, follow me on Instagram. And so we want you to use your phones in the service. Use it to tweet out a message. Use it to take a picture, to post it on Instagram. If you hear something, take a picture, post it up on Facebook. Let people know about what is happening here at Columbine United Church. And again, let's connect with one another on social media throughout the week. We want to give a huge welcome to all the virtual members of Columbine United Church. It's so good to have you with us. Those of you who couldn't make it to church today, but you're dialing in to see what's happening. Those of you from across the United States, some of you on the other side of the pond, and always our men and women in uniform. It is great to have you with us. Let's give these people a warm Columbine welcome. So my preaching theme for the fall is happiness. And the theme for today is finding happiness in the midst of humility. And this is a great passage from the book of Philippians, the 2nd chapter, verses 1 through 4, where the Apostle Paul talks about humility. So listen for God's word as it comes to us today. Paul writes, "If you've gotten anything at all out of following Christ, if his love has made any difference in your life, if being in the community of the Spirit means anything to you, if you have a heart, if you care, if you have a pulse, then do me a favor. Agree with each other, love each other, be deep-spirited friends. Don't push your way to the front. Don't sweet-talk your way to the top. Put yourself aside and help others get ahead. Don't be obsessed with getting your own advantage. Forget yourselves long enough to lend a helping hand." And here the passage ends. May God bless these words now as I seek to apply them to our lives. Discovering happiness, humility. I have learned that all of my great lessons in life come from the deli counter at King Soopers. The deli counter at King Soopers. My life falls apart at the deli counter at King Soopers. This guy has a smile on his face, and the guy behind the counter has a smile on his face. I went with this picture because it's the only picture I could find of the deli counter at King Soopers. However, that's not me. I am not smiling when I go to the deli counter at King Soopers. Now, let me be really clear. I do not like to shop. I do not like to grocery shop. I have my list. I like to go into the grocery store. I want to get out of the grocery store as fast as I possibly can. I have a little game with myself. I set my stopwatch. I grab a hold of the cart. I want to get out of there as quick as I can, better than I can the week before. And for the most part, I'm pretty good. I can grab a cart, take the little thing, wipe it off to make sure I'm not getting somebody else's germs. And I go in there, and I start with the fruits and vegetables, Honeycrisp apples, and I get some broccoli, go over there, get some bananas, grab the bread, I know exactly what I'm doing, grab the meat, and I'm making really good time until I get to the deli counter. And I don't know about your King Soopers, but my King Soopers, life stops at the deli counter. In my King Soopers up there in Conifer, there's always this crowd of people who gather around, and sometimes people push their way to the front because they get so exasperated about waiting, and it got to be so bad that they installed this thing like take a number, so everybody has to take a number. And I hate it. Your number is 84, and you look up at the little thing on the wall, and it says they're at 72, and I got to go through 12 people. I got to go through 12 people to get there. And what makes it worse, they're always understaffed, and always there is one guy. There is one guy who I always get. And I've shopped at different times. I've tried to do it at night, so he's not there. But he's always one guy, and he does not know what he's doing. I just want a pound of Black Forest ham. That's all I want. A pound of Black Forest ham. It's not that hard. He can't find the meat in the counter. He can't get the meat out of the plastic bag. He always can't adjust the depth of the blade cutter, for the meat. And so everything ends up, different thicknesses. It's all cattywampus. He can't put it straight in the bag. It's all wound up in a knot. I want to think, how hard is that? How hard is this? And I'm embarrassed to say this. Please don't think less of me. I have nicknamed him Knucklehead. I just think to myself, man, what a knucklehead. What a knucklehead. You know, and it just falls apart for me because, you know, when I'm at church, I'm pretty good. I can preach about grace. I can preach about forgiveness. I can preach about patience. But what happens is when I get out of church, that things just kind of fall apart for me. You know, I just can't seem to hold on to that sense of peace. I can't hold on to that sense of patience. You know, and there are times when I get a little short-tempered, a little short, and I become a little bit angry, and ultimately I can become a little bit arrogant. A little bit arrogant. Don't say that over there. I can become a little bit arrogant. But it's just not me. What are your deli counters? And I wish there was just one deli counter, right? Wouldn't it be great if there was just one deli counter? Tomorrow I have jury duty. And talk about something that pushes my buttons. Jury duty. Invariably, you know, the only thing that is helpful is I tell everybody I'm a reverend and they don't want you on a jury. But I've got better things to do than sit there in the jury pool. I've got a job to do. I have an important job to do. I got things going on. I got to save souls. I have got to get out of jury duty, but it's just not me. You have your line at the DMV. Yes, yes. You have your deli counter that might be your kids, might be your adult kids. Your deli counter might be the neighbor that you live with. Your deli counter might be the political party that you just cannot stand. We all have a deli counter. And the crazy thing about our deli counters is if we can't get a hold of them, if we can't understand them, if we can't embody them, then you know what? We're never going to get to a place of happiness in our life. Because don't you want to be a happy person? I want to be a happy person. Even when I'm at the deli counters in my life, I want to have a sense of happiness. Are you a happy person? Do you make decisions in your life that will bring about a sense of happiness? Do you live in such a way that you bestow happiness onto other people? Do you interact with them in such a way that you bring happiness out of their life? Are you a happy person? Because, I really believe our faith wants us to have a happiness. That Jesus wants us to be happy people. Jesus said, I have come that my joy might be in you and that your joy might be full. He couldn't have said that if he wasn't a happy person. He wants us to feel that sense of happiness in our life. But I've come to believe that it's not something that is natural for us. A lot of us have to wrestle with understanding how to become happy. That's why I want to do this preaching series on happiness. Earlier in the summer, on my sabbatical, Jane recommended this book to me, The Book of Joy, Lasting Happiness in a Changing World, featuring the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, edited by Douglas Abrams. And the powerful thing about this book is these two great spiritual leaders, probably the two greatest spiritual leaders of our time, they get together and they talk about happiness and joy. And I love this picture. This picture of when they got together. There's Desmond, dancing away, and he's trying to get Dolly to dance, and Dolly's going, "No, I can't dance." It's a part of his vows not to dance. But Desmond's up there, teaching him how to dance, and they talk about joy and how to discover happiness in the middle of their lives. And I was so moved by the book that I want to use it to kind of guide my preaching series for the next several weeks. I really encourage you to get the book, read along with me, because you'll be touched by it as well. One of the things that Desmond and Dolly talk about is that there are 8 pillars. There are 8 pillars of happiness and joy that we need to practice in our life. And I want to move through each one of those 8 pillars over the past several weeks. I just talked about the first pillar a couple of weeks ago. I want to talk about the second great pillar that they talk about is humility. that if we're going to discover happiness and joy in our life, we have to understand what it means to be humble. What it means to be humble. Are you a humble person? See, here's the slippery thing. If you say you are, you're not. You know, and we were talking about humility after the first service. Several people asked, I thought you were going to sing that one song. Oh, Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. Do you know the song? I can't wait to look in the mirror. I get better looking each day. To know me is to love me. I must be a heck of a man. Oh, Lord, it's hard to be humble, but I'm doing the best that I can. What do you know about humility? What do you know about humility? They talk about the fact that if you're going to be humble, you have to understand, if you want to be happy, find happiness, you have to understand what it means to be humble. And Abrams, the editor of the book, talks about the fact that the root word of humility is hummus. And that hummus is not the dip that we eat, but it means soil. It's the Latin word for soil. And that humility, if we're going to discover humility, we have to discover the soil of our lives, the dirt of our lives, the grounding of our lives. And sometimes that grounding takes us to a place where it goes thud, and we come hard down to our sense of what it means to be a human being. That those dirt times of our life where it moves away into the airs that we might carry about us and reminds us that we are a human being. What is it in your life that brings you down to where you're a human being? Like, sometimes being in nature does it for me. I was driving over Kenosha Pass yesterday, and the mist was going through the aspen trees, and the aspens were turning gold, and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous, and it reminds me that I'm just a human being. Being with my wife, being with my kids, it kind of brings me down to the sense of who I am as just a human being. Cuts through all that airs, and just who I am as a human being. Can you not feel your sense of humanity this past week after the earthquake in Mexico City? And they were digging those children out of the rubble. And there was a sense of whoa. That sense of humanness that connects us together. Or the hurricane, being without power for a month. No electricity, no running water, no sanitation. And there's this sense of the Muslim refugees who are fleeing Myanmar, fleeing for their lives. And I see the pictures and I just kind of go, my heart breaks. And it kind of reaches out and helps me set aside all the airs about who I am. I come to this sense of just being a person. Set aside all the airs of who I am. Because, I have a very dangerous job. I carry these titles with me. Reverend. It means somehow that I'm holy. It's dangerous for all of us. Jane and I are reverend. The other one, not so much. I only have a few more weeks to get these digs in. Reverend, doctor. But if I'm not careful, these airs get in the way. Because somehow it makes me feel as though I'm special, I'm important. Can you imagine if I wore my blue robe to the deli counter? Hey, I'm a reverend. I want a pound of Black Forest ham. And if he didn't snap to it, I could point to my sleeves. I say, it's Rev.Dr. Stephen Poos Benson, a pound of Black Forest ham. And if that didn't work, I could wear my priest collar. I am Holy Father, Rev.Dr. Stephen Poos Benson. a Black Forest ham. And what would I do if I carried those kind of airs really out into the world? The guy behind the counter would say, shut up. Get in line. Take a number. Wait your turn. But it's just not me who has airs. You are too. You do the same. And you know, for me, what I've had to learn, I have to learn this over and over and over again, that I'm just a person. I'm just a guy. Sweep away the titles. Who cares about the titles? I am just a guy, a human being. And when you come to this term of understanding of who you are as a human being, then you know what? There's tremendous amount of happiness in this. And for me, when I sit down and look at just who I am and kind of take stock of who I am, these are the things I think about myself. I'm a Southern Californian. I'm a San Diegan. I grew up on the beach with the surf, with the ocean. I love that. I've lived in Colorado for 33 years. I soak up this state. I'm not a native, but I long to be one. To be able to watch the aspens turn, to be able to sit by a mountain lake, to watch a snowstorm. That's who I am. I'm a husband. I'm a dad. I'm a son. I'm a son-in-law. I'm a brother. I'm an uncle. I just happen to be a pastor. I work in a church. I've worked in a church for many, many years. People think I'm nuts for working in one church for many, many years. I happen to enjoy it. I happen to just love my job. I love the people I work with. I love you. I'm just a guy. I've made a boatload of mistakes. Some of them pretty serious mistakes in my life. So much so that when I look back on those mistakes, it makes me feel a little on the nauseous side. How could I have done that? How could I have done that? But then when I boil it down, really who I am is a child of God. I've been forgiven. I'm loved. I'm embraced as God's child. That makes all the difference in the world. When I feel that and embrace it, it brings a sense of happiness. So it begs the question for you. Who are you really? Set aside the air. Set aside your job. Set aside the house you live in, the car that you drive. Who are you really? You're just a person. You're lucky. Hopefully you don't have these big old titles in front of your name. They get in the way. But you too have made serious mistakes. I know you have. Because you're a human being. But here's the beautiful thing, if you boil it all the way down, you too are a child of God. You are loved, you are forgiven, you are embraced by God. That is the grounding of who you are. You are a child of God. And in the middle of that comes a tremendous sense of happiness. Out of that sense of humility comes happiness. Do you know who you are? Because you see, I think out of that sense of humility and happiness, we come to a place of patience. And we need to practice patience, practice humility. See, this is one that's hard for me. That I know I'm supposed to be humble, and for the most part, I kind of get it intellectually, but I know that I have to practice it. I have to practice it. And, for me, I play this little game that's called Just Like Me. I learned this from the Buddhist nun Pema Chodron. It's a game that she teaches and talks about, that when you're in places, you need to practice humility by saying, this person is just like me. When you're ready to lose it, you say to yourself, this person is just like me. So, and I've learned this. When I'm standing there in the grocery store at the deli counter waiting, I say to myself, these people are just like me. This person wants to do his grocery shopping just like me. They want to buy food for their family just like me. I remind myself that maybe this person is not like me because they're shopping, with food stamps. and they have a limited budget, and they're counting every single dime, where I don't. I have to remind myself that maybe this person is unique and special. I have to remind myself that the guy behind the counter is just like me. He has a job to do. He has people lined up. He has a family maybe to take care of. He has a boss that has expectations. That even he is just like me. That sense of humility breaks down the walls that we might have and allows us to connect with one another. Allows us to connect with one another. And now that sense of humility comes a sense of connection. Now I got to tell you something. There's a lot of walls that divide us in our culture and our society right now. There's a lot of walls that divide us. And as I was writing this sermon, literally this week, there was a lot of rhetoric being thrown around. Talking about walls that divide us. As I was writing the sermon, I wanted to say, and I'm going to say, that we have to remember the average North Korean is just like me. We have to remember that the average Iranian is just like me. We have to remember that the average Russian is just like me. And when you think about it, when we set aside all the politics, we all want to live without the threat of nuclear war hanging over our heads. We all just want to have families. We want to love our kids. We want to raise them up with hopeful environments. We want to celebrate life with our friends. Those of us who believe in God, we want to be able to worship together and to sing our praises to God and to sing and share our happiness with other people. We are just the same. And out of that sense of humility, connecting one another. And don't let anybody break that sense of connection, because we are all children of God. We are all children of God. And that's why, I think that because of the rhetoric, we have to pay attention to the words that we speak. We have to pay attention to the words that we speak, because words have power. Go back to my mistake that I make at the deli counter. Sounds simple, right? I keep it in my brain. What a knucklehead. But you know what? One of the things I've learned is that the words that we speak in our brain are just as dangerous and maybe even more so than the words we speak out of our mouth. But I might never go out in front to the guy behind the counter and say, what a knucklehead. But I'm thinking it. And that's more dangerous, because it puts out this negativity, the sense of arrogance that I might be carrying. I think the greater challenge is to learn in your brain to switch that around, to switch that paradigm. Because we are all the same. And my job is to use words that build each other up, not to tear each other down. Are you using words that build each other up? Are you building up your spouse and partner? Are you building up your kids? Are you building up your coworkers? Do you encourage your boss? Are you building each other up? Words have power. I talk about two humble but joyful individuals. These two guys are onto it. They know what it means to be happy. They know what it means to be humble. And if I could remember it, sounds so silly when I go grocery shopping.